If you're a fan of buying things in bulk, you're probably familiar with Sam's Club. These days, popular TV shows go dark on a regular basis. The Walmart-owned store boasts savings for its members and includes some pretty great perks, but is Sam's Club really worth the membership fee? If you're thinking about purchasing a Sam's Club membership, you'll want to know all of the facts. Here are some things you probably don't know about the warehouse store, so you can decide for yourself. Whether or not you save is complicated, whether or not you're actually saving money. Today's television landscape is more diverse than ever, and if you get tired of watching an old-fashioned sitcom, you're only one click away from the gory post-apocalyptic landscapes of The Walking Dead. However, while your memories of 90s TV might seem quaint and fluffy in comparison, don't be fooled. Well, it's complicated, so let's start with what Brian Wansink, a professor of consumer behavior at Cornell University, has to say. When the shows you're now so nostalgic about weren't busy wrapping up every episode in a neat little bow, they plunged you into all kinds of downers. After you pay that membership fee, you start looking for ways to justify it. Ready to relive some childhood nightmares? Changing nature, dinosaurs on the surface. Dinosaurs seems like an average sitcom about a working-class dad named Earl Sinclair, his wife, Frannie, and their 3 kids. There's a weird thing that happens, and it's our tendency to spend more and buy more because we think we're getting a good deal. It's a justification mentality, he says. Benjamin Glazer, an editor at Deal News, says stores like Sam's Club aren't shy about tricking customers into spending more than they intend, and they do it by advertising just how much you're saving. Ever gone to Sam's Club for toilet paper and walked out with a new television? You didn't get a good deal on toilet paper, you bought a TV. He also says buying in bulk is a potential pitfall, especially considering an average family wastes around $1,800 a year in groceries. It doesn't matter how good a price is if things spoil before you can use them, but we forget that when we're faced with a good deal. Shop smart and you can save, though. It's tough for most of us to do, and even though Sam's Club prices are 33% lower than standard supermarket chains, better than Costco or BJ's, there's still a lot of temptation you'll have to navigate through. Not everything is a good buy if saving money is the reason you're shopping at Sam's Club. Go Banking Rates has compiled some expert opinions you're going to want to hear. The Sinclairs have a lot in common with The Simpsons, other than the fact that they're prehistoric reptiles created by the Jim Henson Company. Not everything on their shelves is a good deal, and if you want to get the best deal possible on things like everyday cuts of meat and fresh produce, you should know they're usually available at a supermarket for a better price. Other things you want to stay away from are those in such large quantities you're going to be throwing most of it away. Yeah, Dinosaurs was a weird show, but it had a devoted following that kept it on the air for 65 episodes. Dinosaurs did delve into social messages, but always maintained such a fun, uplifting tone that looking back, you almost forget that the show ended with the entire family dying a grisly, cold, heartbreaking death. In the series finale, Changing Nature, an ice age kicks off. That's stuff like condiments, cereal, and coffee. To add some salt in the wound, it's shown that the worldwide climate catastrophe is Earl's fault, or, well, the fault of Earl's company. Unless, of course, you drink enough coffee to go through a 2-pound bag before it goes questionable. That's the rule of thumb for most perishables you can get at Sam's Club, so just remember to shop smart and not get blinded by that amazingly good deal that'll just end up in the garbage. There are secret codes on their price tags. You can never go shopping armed with too much knowledge, and according to Kyle James of rather-be-shopping.com, knowing what all those price tag codes mean is the key to getting a good deal. Once snowflakes starts falling, you know it's all over. The episode closes with the Sinclair family huddled together during the blizzard, figuring that hey, dinosaurs have been on this earth for 150 million years and, it's not like we're gonna just disappear, right? Cue tears, wailing, sobbing. Sam's Club hasn't confirmed any of this via ABC News, but it's fascinating food for thought that just might save you some cash. He says on his blog that a price ending in 1 means it's a sale price, and that the letter on the top right of the shelf tag can give you even more valuable info. It's a depressing ending, but as the AV Club points out, it's an incredibly effective one. Changing Nature has a stirring impact, and absolutely sells its message about the dangers of environmental irresponsibility. If it's an A or an N, that means it's something they always carry and always try to have in stock. Something with AC means it's a cancelled item they're going to get rid of, so you can definitely watch for this one to go on clearance. Still, it's sad to know that Baby Dinosaur will never go to first grade. 1 Beer, Tiny Toons Adventures. Hey, Tiny Toons Adventures. Every 90s kids watched that show. Remember the Hollywood Plucky episode? What about Acme Acres? Or who else remembers 1 Beer, the sketch where all the characters become alcoholics and then died in a drunk driving accident? No joke, no exaggeration, it happened. And S means it's a seasonal item and might only be there for a short time, but it's the O that's hugely important. That means it's a one-time buy, so once it's gone, it's gone. In the most bizarrely exaggerated PSA stunt of all time, the cheerful cartoon trio of Buster Bunny, Plucky Duck, and Hampton J. Pig find 1 beer in the fridge, and upon having a single drink, nay, splitting a single drink 3 ways, all of them are transformed into booze-addicted caricatures. Which is weird, considering that most people's first beers don't go down that smoothly. Stock up on this one if you find something you like, because it's not coming back. They don't treat their employees as well as the competition does. Sam's Club has been criticized for the treatment of their employees, especially in comparison to their biggest rival, Costco. Costco not only provides a larger percentage of employees with health insurance but also pays them more money on average. Costco has cut down on the products they offer in order to keep their workers happy, while Sam's Club has cut corners by laying off employees. Guess the Tiny Toons weren't drinking Milwaukee's best ice. Anyway, when the inebriated animal kids decide to go drunk driving, they steal a police car, lose control, and hurtle over the side of a cliff. Sure, the whole thing is revealed to be a prank afterward, with the dead characters taking off their angel costumes. That's a big difference. They have their own line of wine stores releasing their own line of products is nothing new, but Sam's Club made a splash with their Members Mark wine. However, according to Dorkly, Fox ended up banning the segment anyway. Generic store brands are usually cheaper than name brand products, and Sam's Club wine keeps true to that pricing model with a $7 white wine that actually tastes pretty good. The company has announced that they plan to add other wines to their lineup, including Cabernet, Prosecco, and Champagne. You can buy alcohol without a membership if you want to try out Sam's Club's wines for yourself, or just take advantage of their other adult beverage deals. You don't have to dish out for a membership in order to do so. Thanks to laws regulating alcohol sales, Sam's Club's alcohol section is open to the public. Which isn't surprising, since parents would have been furious if their kids started screaming in anguish anytime dinner guests brought over a six-pack. The boogeyman, Quantum Leap. When Scott Bakula's doctor go to your local Sam's Club and tell them you're just there for the booze and you'll be free to enter the store. You can dine in their food court without a membership looking for a pizza to go with that six-pack you just scored a deal on? After you buy booze from Sam's Club's liquor store, you can swing by their food court for a snack. This is another area of the store you don't need a membership to get access to, so you might as well take advantage of it. Sam Beckett got trapped leaping through time. It made for one of the most cleverly constructed, feel-good shows of all time. Seriously, that memorable theme song could make even the hardest person crack a smile. You should be warned, though. Every episode, Sam jumped into a new person's body, in a different period in the 20th century, in order to put right what once went wrong. Once the historical catastrophe was averted, he'd leap into a new person, say his famous, "Oh boy," catchphrase, and begin the next adventure. Once you try it, you might get hooked. Sam's Club food is surprisingly tasty and reasonably priced. You don't need a membership to use the pharmacy, either is your nearest pharmacy inconveniently located inside a Sam's Club. You can still use it, whether or not you're a member of the club. It turns out that is yet another part of the store that you can go to without having to pay membership fees. There are no extra fees for using the pharmacy without a membership, so you'll be getting the same price as members. You can sometimes score big shopping their online auctions. You don't even have to get off the couch to get some seriously good deals from Sam's Club. Along the way, he was aided by his best friend, Al, a hologram from the future. Due to its time travel format, Quantum Leap jumped freely between many genres, but it was always family-friendly. Well, except for the one haunted house episode which gave all the younger viewers nightmares. All you need to do is check out their online auctions, bid from the comfort of your own home, and see what kind of treasures you can find. There's no guarantees about what you're going to find there, but that's half the fun. You can browse by category, keep an eye on auctions ending that same day, and watch others count down through the final minutes. According to Pop-Optic, the episode was titled, The Boogeyman. After leaping into the body of a horror novelist, Sam is surrounded by weird supernatural occurrences and is unable to prevent people from dying all around him. Whether you're in the market for some outdoor furniture, a new computer, or a bulk pack of shower gel, you need to check it out. Their CEO was criticized for promoting diversity in late 2015. Rosalind Brewer, then the CEO of Sam's Club, caught flack for comments which some thought implied discrimination against white men. To top off all the B-horror movie madness, it's revealed that Sam's holographic buddy Al has been possessed by the devil, yes, Satan himself, who then tries to murder Sam. It gets intense, but don't worry. Business Insider reported that in an interview Brewer gave to CNN's Poppy Harlow, her dedication to diversity drew criticism. Just today we met with a supplier and the entire other side of the table was all Caucasian males, said Brewer. That was interesting. Because it's Quantum Leap, things turn out okay in the end, and the show even throws in a fun Stephen King reference. Into That Good Night, Roseanne. The extinction of the dinosaurs was probably the most depressing finale ever, but Roseanne's downer ending comes pretty close. The heart of Roseanne was always the working-class relationship between the title character and her husband, as they struggled to pay bills, raise a family, and get by. I decided not to talk about it directly with the suppliers folks in the room because there were actually no female, levels down. So I'm going to place a call to him. In spite of the controversy, Walmart stood by Brewer and reaffirmed their commitment to diversity. CEO Doug McMillon said, "For years, we've asked our suppliers to prioritize the talent and diversity of their sales teams calling on our company. Roz was simply trying to reiterate that we believe diverse and inclusive teams make for a stronger business. That's all there is to it, and I support that important ideal. They're against unions. Walmart and Sam's Club are against workers' unions and actively discourage employees from forming them. Leaked training materials show the tactics the company uses to squash any thoughts of unionizing. When the meat department at a Texas Walmart unionized in 2000, Walmart eliminated butchers from nearly 200 stores. People are scared to vote for a union because they're scared their store will be closed," Barbara Getz, a Walmart employee, told The Atlantic. They're pretty big in China. Sam's Club is quite popular in China. Until the final season, according to Uproxx, where a surprise lottery win turns the family into millionaires, thereby leading to a bizarre 22-episode run of wealthy celebrity hijinks. The country has several Sam's Club locations, including one of the company's top-selling locations, which is in Shenzhen. That's weird enough, but then, the series finale hits viewers with the biggest plot twist of the series. The whole last season was a novel written by Roseanne, who never won the lottery at all. Hold on tight because it gets worse. The store has become so influential that it has changed how its members shop. Instead of shopping for fresh food daily as many Chinese people do, members are now stocking up in bulk and visiting the store less than once a week. There used to be a Moss Club. The Houston-based store was the only Moss Club location. Apparently, Roseanne's new fiction writing habit is her way of coping with the loss of her beloved husband, Dan, who actually died of a heart attack in the previous season. Set up much like other Sam's Club stores, Moss Club's main difference was that it carried more Hispanic merchandise for its members. The Moss Club opened in 2009 as a test, before the company realized the community would be better served by simply expanding product offerings in their traditional Sam's Club locations. The store announced its closing in 2014, after 4 years in business. Members have a lot of access to perks. There are a lot of perks available to Sam's Club members.
Small business owners can purchase insurance through Sam's Club for their employees, a service that was extended to individuals in 2016. Everything that's happened since Dan's death is just a dream. So in about 2 minutes, the entire run of show goes from comedy to tragedy. For what it's worth, the 2018 Roseanne revival showed Dan to still be alive, according to Screen Rant. Of course, then Roseanne Barr got all real-life racist and got her show cancelled, so that's a different kind of dark. Over the Edge, Batman, the animated series. Hey, there's a reason he's called the Dark Knight. The store also provide packages which provide assistance with payroll services and legal solutions. Members can also get help with their taxes through Sam's Club and are guaranteed the maximum refund possible. Though all the kids loved Batman, the animated series, what made the show a classic was its courageous exploration of mature themes like trauma, loss, abuse, identity crises, and more. Accounting services are available for both individuals and small businesses. They're targeting higher-income customers. If you've noticed a difference in the food options you're seeing at Sam's Club, you're not imagining it. However, the show's most intense episode was Over the Edge, which shows a horrific implosion in the relationship between Batman and his eternal ally, Commissioner James Gordon. The fallout occurs when Gordon's daughter, Barbara, is killed by the Scarecrow. As she dies in her father's arms, a long, horrible moment that viewers are forced to observe, Gordon blames Batman and swears to destroy everything the Dark Knight stands for. It's thrilling, but painful to watch. Sure, the Joker's a scary guy, but even his machinations can't compare to the gut-wrenching sight of Jim Gordon raiding the Batcave and blowing up the Batmobile. In 2016, Sam's Club went after Costco by taking aim at another portion of the market, higher-income customers who generally headed to the competition. According to Fortune, they did this by starting to carry trendier foods, by installing teams of regional buyers to select local, gourmet, organic, and natural foods, and opening more stores in more affluent areas. They revamped and consolidated their private food brand Members Mark as Sam's Club's own private brand, and in 2016 the entire line got a complete makeover. As written by the AV Club, the episode is eventually revealed to be a dream sequence experienced by Barbara, who is still alive. According to Food Business News, it was no small endeavor that saw all 21 separate, previously existing private brands revamped into Members Mark products in an attempt to standardize the line. Included in the overhaul were 300 new products hitting the shelves in 2017, around 600 slated for revamping in 2018, and a plan to continue adding around 300 new items to the brand every year going forward. The official Sam's Club press release tells the lengths the team has gone to, sourcing ingredients from all over the world and from some of the industry's top performers stateside. There are regional favorites, like Members Mark all-natural pulled pork, made with guidance from the Kansas City Barbecue Society, and other tasty goodies like handcrafted caramels, fair trade certified K-cups, and honey sourced from a beekeeping co-op. Their sensory lab decides what goes on the shelves. Not everything makes it through the rigorous testing program Sam's Club uses to decide what's going on their shelves, and the recipe girl got a first-hand look at their sensory lab in Bentonville, Arkansas. When Lori Lang toured the facility, she says she was most impressed by the 9-point scale all food products are rated on. Nonetheless, mainstream superhero cartoons don't get much darker than this. Stevel, Family Matters. Okay, so nothing turns a wholesome family sitcom into a terrifying creepshow like a good Halloween episode. Anything that gets less than a 7 doesn't make it onto the shelves, and distributors are allowed to make adjustments to their product based on feedback and resubmit for testing. According to 5 News Online, the Sensory Lab panel is made up of anywhere from 65 to 100 people who sample and rate 4 different foods every day. However, the Stevel episode of Family Matters is horrifying enough that Freddy Krueger would probably run away, crying into his claws. As described by Decider, Stevel is the name of a demonically possessed ventriloquist dummy who just happens to look exactly like Urkel, the show's nerdy star character. They're rated on things like taste and texture, and in 2012 they evaluated nearly 1,700 items. That includes regional favorites for Sam's Club locations across the country, and Vice President of Communications David Tovar says only about 15% of foods tested make the cut.
They have a connection to Duck Dynasty. Sam's Club made its first acquisitions in 1987, purchasing 24 Supersaver wholesale warehouse club stores in Louisiana via the Cleveland banner. Prior to their shift to Sam's Club, those stores were owned by father and son business partners Alton and John Howard. Now, ventriloquist dummies are already creepy. Just ask the generation of kids who grew up with The Twilight Zone. If you're familiar with the reality show Duck Dynasty, you know John's daughter, Corey. Only a year prior to selling to Sam's Club, John Howard talked to Newstalk about how much better his stores were. But this evil Urkel doll is like something crafted in the bowels of hell. He cited things like higher ceilings, wider aisles, uniformity across all stores, and the need for store members to meet hand-picked criteria to belong to the club. Stevel's Wishmaster-esque voice would be enough to make countless children hide under the bed, and after he comes to life, the dummy proceeds to systematically torture, play with, and murder the entire cast of the show. So yes, for one episode, Family Matters literally turned into a slasher movie. Sure, Sure, it ends up being a dream sequence, and these episodes always get retconned. But hey, try telling that to the traumatized young Urkel fan who will now refuse to wear suspenders, ever again. You can't just shout, "dreaming," after every horrifying episode and have it be fine. To heck and back, Rocko's modern life depictions of demonic figures within children's entertainment used to be a more normal occurrence. Listen, the "Night on Bald Mountain" segment of Fantasia is like Dante Alighieri's Inferno in cartoon form. And Krampus? Come on. However, times have changed, and by the 90s, children's TV networks wanted to avoid showing things like red monsters holding pitchforks. Despite this, Rocko's modern life sneaked one past the censors, simply by calling hell, heck. Hellish imagery aside, To Heck and Back is a seriously disturbing episode, which features the character Heifer choking on chicken bones, dying, and then trying to go to heaven, only to be dragged down to heck. It seems that Heifer's gluttonous ways have imprisoned him in the dark realm, and he'll now have to spend eternity watching video footage of himself eating insane amounts of food. Sure, Heifer ends up escaping from this fate, but he doesn't appear to learn his lesson, so it seems likely that a return trip to heck may await him in the future. Maybe he needs a visit from the three ghosts of gluttonous past, present, and future. Turning point: SpiderMan. The animated series, one of the landmark moments in comic book history, occurred in Amazing Spider-Man number 121, when the Green Goblin threw Peter Parker's girlfriend Gwen Stacy off a bridge, and the webslinger failed to save her. After that comic, superhero stories changed forever. No one was safe, not even a hero's loved ones. Though the 90s Spider-Man cartoon never could have gotten the infamous neck snap scene past the censors, writer John Semper captured the spirit of the story in surprisingly gritty detail. In Turning Point, the Green Goblin captures Mary Jane Watson, whom Peter marries, in the comics, and throws her off a bridge. While MJ doesn't quite die, she does disappear into a dark portal and becomes trapped in limbo, presumably for eternity, which might be even worse. An anguished Spider-Man then tries to murder the Green Goblin in cold blood, only for the Goblin to instead get sucked into the same spinning portal. Before Spidey can pursue them, which might not be a great idea, the portal closes. Boom. Archenemy and greatest love, gone forever. So, just like the comics, Spider-Man fails to save the woman he loves, opening fresh wounds on his prior failure to save Uncle Ben. There's no blood, no bones, no gravestones, but it's seriously dark stuff. Consider me gone. Alf was a weird alien, and his taste for eating cats could be problematic, but otherwise, he was a pretty lovable dude. It's a shame that the US government's Alien Task Force was so dedicated to kidnapping Alf and that they so badly wanted to subject him to tortures such as freezing, electrical shock, and dissection, according to Junkie. These horrific machinations prompted the Tanner family to take Alf into the fold and protect him as one of the family. Heartwarming stuff, right? Wrong. According to Complex, Alf's final episode saw the title character being called up by his fellow aliens, finally allowing him to leave Earth. But unlike E.T., Alf doesn't get to go home. He misses his flight, and the alien task force finally catches up to him, surrounding him with guns. Fade to black. The ending was supposed to be a cliffhanger, but the show ended there, with viewers forced to imagine the alien they'd come to love being cut open like the gray guy in Alien Autopsy.
A follow-up TV movie came out in 1996, but by that point, everyone had mourned for the cat-eating alien for too long. Man, 90s series finales were rough. Whacking Day, The Simpsons. The Simpsons has been on TV so long that they've done almost any storyline imaginable. However, the show's darkest moment didn't occur during one of those Halloween Treehouse of Horror segments. Instead, this disturbing little nugget was hidden in an otherwise innocuous episode called Whacking Day. Whacking Day is for beating snakes to death with sticks, not whatever else you were thinking. See, you might have thought Principal Skinner was a mean guy, but it turns out he's also an attempted murderer. When the local superintendent comes to inspect the school, Skinner decides he has to keep all his more rambunctious students from causing trouble. So he promises them free mountain bikes, guides them under the school, and locks them in utility basement. That'd be bad enough, but Skinner then totally forgets about the boys, for days. Bart escapes, but the rest of the kids spend the week, or longer, in this basement, with no water. Somehow, they survive the ordeal. Skinner gives them real mountain bikes as an apology, but yeah, no dice. After pulling that locked door crap, it's surprising the kids ever listened to him. The Darkness and the Light, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. Star Trek is known for being a bastion of hope and optimism, and while the 90s series Deep Space Nine mostly stayed true to that vision, it wasn't afraid to test the boundaries. The series takes place near the planet Bior, which has only recently been freed from decades of tyrannical occupation by the Cardassians, a society of reptilian invaders. Political and religious allegories abounded, and one of the show's prominent heroes was Kira Nerys, a former Bajoran freedom fighter played by Nana Visitor, or was she a terrorist? Deep Space Nine was never afraid to challenge moral assumptions. While the Cardassians' occupation itself was unquestionably immoral, the episode The Darkness and the Light went deeper than most TV programs ever would, by also holding up a mirror to Kira's actions as a rebel, according to Tor. Overall, the show mostly sides with Kira. Her people were being oppressed, and she had to fight, even if it meant spilling Cardassians' blood. However, DS9's writers pointedly examine the fact that Kira is so unrepentant, particularly when she's interrogated by a Cardassian who claims he did everything he could to spare Bajoran lives. No easy answers here, and that's exactly why fans loved DS9. Bullets over Bel Air. Fresh Prince of Bel Air. There are few shows that epitomize the 90s as much as The Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Everyone who grew up in that decade knows the lyrics of the Fresh Prince theme song by heart, and the series introduced the world to Will Smith, the movie star of all movie stars. Surprisingly, even though Fresh Prince was a sitcom, E! News points out that the series wasn't afraid to explore deeper issues, particularly in the episode, Bullets over Bel Air. Basically, what happens here is that Will and Carlton are held up at gunpoint, and Will takes a bullet to save Carlton's life. Will doesn't die, but he does get hospitalized. Later on, Carlton visits Will at his hospital bed, and Carlton tells Will that he bought a gun to protect them if it ever happens again. Rather than being impressed, Will is furious, and he demands that Carlton leave the gun behind. Carlton stomps off but does as Will asks. The scene ends with Will choking up as he empties the bullets from the chamber. The whole sequence is as emotional as a TV program can get. While Fresh Prince went back to being funny after that, these darker moments are some of the big ones fans remember today. The opera, Seinfeld. Most sitcoms have their dramatic, family hug moments, but Seinfeld avoided them like the plague. From start to finish, Seinfeld was snarky and witty, and treated every situation like a joke, even when characters died from licking toxic envelopes. However, in one episode from 1992 the show got a little too real for comfort. The opera is all about the character of Crazy Joe Davola, who'd seem more at home in Silence of the Lambs than Monk's Cafe. The insanity starts when Crazy Joe phones up Jerry, leaving a message where he threatens to put the kibosh on him. Soon, we find out that Crazy Joe has also been stalking Elaine, plastering countless photographs of her face across his apartment walls a la Kilgrave in Jessica Jones. From there, he spends the rest of the episode acting like a genuine serial killer, finally disguising himself in a clown costume and scaring Kramer. The laugh track only makes the whole thing even more disturbing. The worst part? At the end of the episode, Crazy Joe is still at large. Spin-off potential? Yeah, maybe for a horror movie. Slow Tango in South Seattle. Frasier is one of the most low-key sitcoms of all time. Just about the complete opposite of the rowdy, ensemble-driven Cheers, the show it was spun off from. Frasier found fancy and erudite Frasier Crane, Kelsey Grammer, living in quiet, rainy Seattle, working as a psychiatrist on a radio call-in show and hanging out in a coffee shop with his even fussier brother, Niles David Hyde Pierce. A lot of plots focused on the title character's love life. Frasier may have been middle-aged, divorced, balding, and self-absorbed, but none of that was going to stop him from trying to bed as many beautiful and intelligent women as possible. The 1994 episode Slow Tango in South Seattle depicted a creepy and problematic sexual conquest in Frasier's life. An old patient, John O'Hurley, Seinfeld's J. Peterman, who Frasier helped to conquer writer's block, has apparently lifted the story of Frasier losing his virginity and turned it into a best-selling work of romantic fiction. At first enraged by this violation of privacy, Frasier instead sets out to track down his first partner and thank her for making a man out of him. What's weird is that the woman was his 40-year-old piano teacher, and she seduced Frasier when he was but a lad of 18. The one with the ick factor. Friends is an iconic sitcom, a definitive 90s TV show that purported to depict the life of a single 20-something looking for love in the big city and experiencing the phenomenon of that particular time in life of hanging out with a friends group that becomes a de facto family. That's a reputation that Friends slowly leaned into because it was a pretty weird show during its first season, 1994-95. For example, Ross had a pet monkey, which is not a normal thing people did in the go-go 90s. Also, there's a whole episode where Monica deflowers a minor. Really? At least producers knew they were getting weird. They titled it The One with the Ick Factor, after all. Monica, years from finding true love with Chandler, dates a younger guy named Ethan. He's a senior in what Monica thinks is college, and so she lies and tells him she's 22, although she's actually 26. They soon physically consummate their relationship, which is especially meaningful for Ethan, as it's his first time. After the deed is done, Monica tells Ethan her real age. That's when he admits he told a lie, too. He's not a senior in college, he's a senior in high school, and also he's 17. That's a deal-breaker for Monica, who somehow avoids prison. 72 Hours. The Golden Girls. More than 25 years after it went off the air, The Golden Girls remains a cult classic. The show, one of the few to ever air about women of a certain age, followed an undeniable formula. Miami housemates Dorothy, the sarcastic one, Rose, the dim-witted one, Sophia, the unfiltered one, and Blanche, the amorous Southern belle, dated, dealt with the perils of aging, sass-mouthed each other, generally a pointed comment about Blanche's supposed promiscuity, and ate a cheesecake in the middle of the night. The Golden Girls was a joyful, light-hearted show, but it also delivered an episode about the AIDS crisis. The 1990 installment, 72 Hours, found Rose, national treasure Betty White, grappling with the news that the blood transfusion she'd received during a surgery years prior may have been tainted with HIV. So off she goes to get tested, and must wait 72 frightening hours for the result. Sweet Rose endures mental and emotional anguish throughout, and at one point declares that she's a good person and doesn't deserve to get AIDS, as opposed to, say, Blanche, whom she implies would be more likely to contract the disease because of her high level of sexual activity. Blanche thoughtfully replies, AIDS is not a bad person's disease, Rose. It is not God punishing people for their sins. Powerful statement made, and Rose didn't get AIDS because it was a comedy show, after all. Jesse's song, Saved by the Bell exists in a bizarro version of the 90s where teens zinged each other with insults that sound like they came from old vaudeville routines, attended a school with an 8-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, and experienced zero repercussions for constantly scamming their principal, who is also their best friend. Also, Zach Morris, their leader, could freeze time, and Screech built the most advanced robot in world history. Bayside High was a strange place to be sure, but it was nearly torn asunder by the cold claw of addiction in the November 1990 episode, Jesse's Song. Overachiever Jessie bites off more than she can chew trying to balance her high level of commitment to school in addition to Hot Sunday, the I'm So Excited covering pop group she's formed with Kelly and Lisa. There aren't enough hours in the day, so Jessie turns to cocaine pills for energy and then, in a terrifying TV moment, she experiences a panic attack and sings I'm so excited, which segues into her crying I'm so scared into Zach's sympathetic arms. Okay, all that happens except for the cocaine, Jessie got briefly hooked on caffeine pills, not hard drugs. While the climax is a bit much, a caffeine binge would result in agitation and a headache, not a full-on freak-out. It does make a point about how kids like Jessie can easily burn out trying to meet high expectations. Shape Up, Full House sitcom episodes about important topics can come across as heavy-handed if only due to juxtaposition. When a usually inane, superficial sitcom tackles a serious issue, it can lead to viewer whiplash. That's what happened with the 1990 episode Full House episode, Shape Up, which nobly demonstrated eating disorder warning signs to parents of teens and tweens amid its usual cute kid jokes and catchphrase-based humor. DJ Tanner Candace Cameron scores an invite to BFF Kimmy Gibbler's pool party, and realizing she'll have to wear a swimsuit in public she feels some toxic body shame. She becomes obsessed with losing weight as quickly as possible, and as the episode unfolds, she develops an eating disorder. DJ posts photos of rail-thin models on the fridge to discourage herself from eating, eschews cake in favor of ice on a stick, feeds her sandwich to the dog, and then stops eating altogether. The family realizes she has a serious problem when she collapses after working out too hard on a treadmill. Rather than seek treatment for this serious medical and psychological disorder, Dad Danny Tanner tells DJ that what's on the inside is what matters, and she's immediately cured and announces her intention to attend the pool party and just have fun. Yikes, Full House. None for the Road, Clueless, the 1995 movie, was so popular with 90s teens that ABC and later UPN adapted it into a TV series. It actually ran for 3 seasons, and a remarkably high number of film cast members reprised their roles on the small screen, including Stacey Dash Dion, Donald Faison Murray, and Elisa Donovan Amber. Rachel Blanchard took over for Alicia Silverstone as winsome Cher Horowitz, and that's not the only big change when Clueless went small. As the movie was based on Jane Austen's Emma, the show ran out of source material pretty quickly and had to invent new situations for its characters, which included standard teen TV fodder, including a very special episode in 1999 about the perils of drunk driving. Cher's friends throw her a huge 18th birthday party. How huge, and how 90s, was it? NSYNC shows up. Anyway, regular characters Cher, Murray, Sean Holiday, along with Cher's boyfriend of the moment Adam Breck Wilson, party hard and get thoroughly underage drunk, and then everyone but Cher tries to drive home. There's an accident. While Murray walks away, Sean and Adam both get hospitalized, and soon after, Adam dies from internal injuries. Never did a teenage boy drink and drive himself to death in Emma. The next 50 years Beverly Hills, 90210 before it became a soap opera for young people about young, sun-kissed Californians hooking up with, cheating on, and breaking up with each other. Beverly Hills, 90210 was just a fish out of water show. Brandon and Brenda Walsh moved to SoCal from Minnesota about goofy high school kids who happened to have excellent haircuts and designer clothes. One plot thread involved cool and popular David Silver still hanging around with his sort of nerdy old pal Scott Scanlon. But during season 2, Scott's portrayer, Douglas Emerson, wanted to leave the show, so the writers wrote him out in a very big way. Scott's mom asks David and Donna Tori Spelling to plan Scott's big 16th birthday party, and they throw a big bash. But Scott, ever the misfit, sneaks away and rummages through a desk drawer where he finds a gun. He plays around with it, and, shockingly, accidentally shoots himself dead. Yes, 90210 had a teenage character die on his birthday. Why, Charlie Brown, why? This isn't an episode of a regular television series, it's a Peanuts special, starring Charlie Brown, Snoopy, Linus, and the gang. The Peanuts team unleashed a whopping 45 specials over the years, including annually re-aired classics like It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown and A Charlie Brown Christmas. Well, there are only so many holidays to disappoint old Chuck, and by 1990 the topics evolved away from celebrations and toward leukemia. See, there's a new girl in school named Janice with whom Linus makes friends. One day, she gets sick and leaves school, and doesn't come back.
Linus and Charlie Brown go visit her in the hospital, where she's receiving chemotherapy treatments for leukemia, an especially terrible and aggressive form of cancer that attacks the blood and bone marrow. She's handling it okay, but it's Linus who breaks down, raging at the cruelty of the universe by asking, why? To Charlie Brown, who has no easy answers. The good news, Janice recovers and comes back to school. The bad news, she lost her hair from the chemo, and a schoolyard bully makes fun of her. This is some very dark stuff for a franchise best known for a highly imaginative dog. Cult fiction, Boy Meets World. A Boy Meets World. Corey Matthews, Ben Savage, a Philadelphia tween, and eventually young man, who ostensibly meets some kind of thing about the world each episode. Usually, it's a relationship truth, as the show thoughtfully explored Corey's evolving interplays with his teachers, parents, romantic interests, and friends. Boy Meets World tracked the development of Corey's relationship with Topanga Danielle Fishel, from classmate to crush to girlfriend to wife, but it's really a series about the bromance between Corey and his ride-or-die best pal Sean Ryder Strong. Probably their biggest and most bewildering trial is the time the impressionable Sean got sucked into a cult. Suffering a personal slump, Sean gets mixed up with The Center, a live-in church led by the charismatic Mr. Mac, Jerry Levine, where adherents spout creepy platitudes like, "Laughter is a mask that denies the reality of a situation and reveals nervousness," and, "A hug is a burst of pure love." Sean gets hopelessly brainwashed into the Center's way, and before long, Corey is struggling to find a way to deprogram his best friend, #teen problems, but the universe takes care of things. After Sean's favorite teacher gets into a gruesome motorcycle accident, he snaps out of it. The Longest Day, Home Improvement. Perhaps the most shocking thing on this 1996 episode of Home Improvement is that bumbling dad Tim, the toolman, Taylor has to stop grunting like a caveman and act like a sensitive, modern, actual human man for a hot minute. He gets serious for the most serious reason possible, the possibility that his son has cancer. Jonathan Taylor Thomas became the teen dream of millions with his role as Ryan crafty middle child Randy Taylor. In The Longest Day, innocent and jokey Randy goes in for a routine medical checkup. But later on, the doctor's office calls home and tells Randy's parents, Tim and Jill Patricia Richardson, that there's a possibility that teenage Randy may have potentially fatal thyroid cancer. The family has to wait for test results to come in, making for plenty of time for two frightened parents to contemplate the death of their child, and for Randy to worry that he's going to die. Everything turns out fine, of course he's just got a thyroid issue that can be solved with a daily pill, but The Longest Day is the longest home improvement episode. Deadly Force, Gargoyles was never a sunny show. The palpably gloomy series revolved around a group of gargoyles, who, while posing as stone-comprised building adornments in 20th-century New York City in the daytime, were actually fantastical creatures that had just spent 1,000 years in a state of perpetual petrification. It's their job to protect the city at night, and, it would seem, bear the weight of the world's ills on their shoulders and wax poetic in crisp, theatrical accents. Gargoyles was an emotional slog, but never traumatizing. Well, 1994's Deadly Force is an exception. Against the backdrop of a mob-orchestrated theft and potential distribution of a crate of laser-based hand weapons, NYPD detective, and friend to the Gargoyles, Elisa Maza is home cooking dinner one night when she's visited by Gargoyle Manhattan. Having just seen a Western movie with a shooting duel scene, he's obsessed with guns and finds Elisa's service revolver in its holster and starts playing around with it, pretending he's a cowboy. Then it goes off in his hand and he accidentally shoots Elisa. Gargoyles does not look away, showing Elisa laying in a pool of her own blood, unconscious, on her own kitchen floor. She gets better, but still, that's a traumatizing TV moment.